Anyway, let's get into this. Let's get into this. I want to start with the Russell Westbrook trade to the Lakers. He goes to Los Angeles for Kyle Kuzma, Montrezl Harrell, and Kentavious Caldwell-Pope. Some picks too, right? Where they get the 22nd pick, maybe some future stuff. It was a whole lot to match the salaries. Now, apparently, the Wizards, they really only want KCP. And I don't blame them, right? But the other two, they're willing to reroute. And the funny thing is, man, over the last month, have you ever seen or heard more rumors about a player than Kuzma where the headline was in reverse? It wasn't so-and-so is interested in Kuzma. It was this team doesn't want him. That team isn't interested in him. And the Lakers are still interested in trading him. I've never seen anything like it, man. I don't know. I have my fun poking fun at Kuzma, but it seems like there's something deeper running with as far as teams not interested in Kyle Kuzma. Montrez, we've talked about his delusions of grandeur and, not willing to be a role player. So it is what it is. As far as the Lakers go, man, look, I don't get it. I don't get it. I mean, if you want to just simplify things, Russ wants to play fast. LeBron wants to play slow. I thought Buddy Hield would have been a much better fit. And sure, during the regular season, Russ will carry them a bit, right? He can let LeBron and AD rest and give them that energy. But come playoff time, are we going to see Russ spotting up from the weak side or LeBron? I'll tell you what, as a Warriors fan, I'm here for it. I'm here for it because I think the Lakers look like they're setting themselves up for some dark times here in the not too distant future. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense, man. I don't know if there's other moves to be made, but it's just when you look at the magnitude of the salary, they've gutted their depth to do this. Who else can they bring in now? I don't know. Maybe someone will come on a super discount. Maybe DeMar DeRozan will come play for peanuts. But yeah, this is a suspect move, man. And maybe it speaks to the ego of both of those players thinking it will work. All right, so here's what I'm going to do here. I'm going to go through the lottery and just give quick thoughts and takes on each pick. Number 1, surprise, surprise, Cade Cunningham. You know what? I didn't like the Chris Middleton comp from Mike Schmidt. And he's my guy. I fuck with his stuff. I like Mike Schmidt as an analyst and a draft guy. But Middleton, like I understand they both shoot. They can score similarly. Their mentalities are just way too different to me. I didn't like that comp. But yeah, I mean, Cade, the size, the feel, the shooting. The question for me is he going to be a true alpha or is he more of a Pippen or an AD? I know we get into this conversation probably too much with players, right? I'm just not so sure Cade is a real alpha. There was times at Oklahoma State where he was a little too willing to fall back and yield to some of those selfish little guards he played with. But we'll see. We'll see. Detroit their roster's unbalanced. I understand in the modern NBA, you want size at the wing position, but their whole team is like 6'8" forwards, right? So I would like to see them flip one of those forwards, maybe for another guard, another shooter, Terrence Ross-ish type guy, a scorer. We'll see how Killian Hayes fits in the mix because Killian is really kind of like a shrunken down, way less talented Cade. So I don't know about that, but yeah, that was the pick. That was the easy pick. Jalen Green goes number 2 to Houston. Now, his suit looked like something Ellen would wear, right? Bedazzled. But obviously, the kid has all the tools to be great. He's a prototype 2-guard. Effortless fluidity, right? It's just nothing is of a strain. I like the Zach LaVine comp because I see that, as far as just he levitates. He doesn't jump, he levitates. But, there's a fine line between confidence and arrogance. And I joke about the suit, but I don't, right? Because this kid, he seems a little bit like a prima donna, right? Like he's so talented. I think everything has come relatively easy for him. I'm not trying to say he hasn't worked to get to this spot, but he's so good. I think relative to how much another kid has to work, it's not as much. And so what happens when it doesn't come that easy? Confidence, arrogance, entitlement. I'm getting some of those vibes from this kid. And then you look at his backcourt mates in Houston and John Wall and Kevin Porter Jr. Not exactly Steph and Clay type leadership down there, right? So I don't know what they want to do with all that. But overall, if you look at what Houston's done post-Harden, they've quickly reloaded with a lot of talent. They stumble into Kevin Porter Jr. They anticipate Christian Woods, and then they land Jalen Green. And then John Wall, to his credit, has kind of rejuvenated himself. So, yeah, if you're a Rockets fan in Houston, I think you got to be feeling pretty good. Again, I would worry about the maturity and the locker room dynamic of that backcourt. Who's the leader? Who's going to lead young Jalen? Keep him on the straight path. Number 3, Evan Mobley goes to Cleveland. What sticks out to me with Mobley are his feet. His agility is crazy, right? Like you watch a couple defensive sequences from him and you're like, yo, dude, he shouldn't move his feet like that, right? And with that slight build, I do think he is a power forward. I think he's a 4. And so for Cleveland, because of that, I think you could bring back Jared Allen. I know that they don't want to pay. What is the rumor? They don't want to pay Sexton or Allen. It's like they acquire these guys, and then Dan Gilbert, he's all over the place, right? But I think hypothetically, you could play those guys in the front court and have just kind of twin towers. Great rim protection. They're both athletic enough to kind of switch out on the perimeter. I'm not sure that Mobley will ever be the scorer that people want him to be, but he's a modern defender, man. He's going to be a real nice defender. I think you'll see more stat lines of like 18, 10, and 3 or 4 blocks. Solid defender. You look at Okoro, who they got last year, another strong defender. So they have the makings of a strong defense. I'm curious to see what and if they can flip Sexton for, maybe another wing. Number 4, Scottie Barnes. Toronto with the first surprise on the board. I hinted at this. I don't know, how many of you were paying attention. It was just a quick little thing, but I hinted like several times. I was like, I'm not so sure I like Suggs more than Barnes. And apparently, Ujiri felt the same way, right? Now Siakam can pack up his itty-bitty bag for real. Scottie Barnes reminds me in a lot of ways of a bigger Kyle Lowry, right? He just plays harder than you, and it can be infectious amongst his teammates. And so, yeah, man, I imagine that they're going to try to move off of Siakam and put Barnes in that role from day one in an ideal situation. You surround him with shooting, right? Trent Jr., Van Vliet, Boucher. It should look pretty damn good, man. In fact, if they are able to do that, they can get rid of Siakam and kind of give Barnes that role with those shooters. I could see him winning Rookie of the Year. I could see him getting a bunch of triple doubles and just filling the stat sheet in Toronto, winning. And, again, if he gets that role, if he has to come off the bench and play behind Siakam, obviously those numbers aren't going to be there. Number 5, Jalen Suggs slides to Orlando. Markelle Fultz, Cole Anthony, Jalen Suggs. It's a whole bunch of maybe shooting ass niggas, right? Like, I don't know about that shooting in the backcourt right there. I'll tell you what, though, they might be one of the more physical backcourts in the league, and not necessarily like in size, but if you watch how those 3 play, they're physical guys. They're athletes. So, I love Jalen's mentality and his motor. It was funny, though, because I heard him pre-draft, he was saying he should have the highest ceiling because he hasn't been a full-time basketball player yet, right? He came over from football. You see that mentality. But at the same time, I would argue that that's why his shot will probably never get as good as it needs to be for him to be a truly like elite lead guard. Because he started late, he didn't fully dedicate himself to it. The shot, that's my concern, is the shot's never going to get to where it needs to be. And I think that's ultimately why he slid to 5. At number 6, the Thunder take Josh Giddey. This one was crazy to me. I released a quick little reaction video last night on the Patreon, and I went nuts, man, because look, full disclosure here, because I understand some of y'all are big Giddey fans, and so for me to shit on it, you feel a type of way. But look, we're going to have these arguments. This is what it's about, right? This is the fun in it. But I didn't really even take a look at him until yesterday morning. I spent about an hour and a half doing the YouTube thing. It really just comes down to I don't trust his shot. I don't trust his shot. And then you consider the fact that he needs the ball. He's a point guard. He's not a strong defender. And then you've got questions, obviously, about his body filling out. So for me, at number 6, that's just way too many questions. That's way too many questions. And look, again, maybe if I watched his season in Australia, I'd feel different. He could be one of those it factor guys. That's kind of what it seems like from what I'm hearing. The Josh Giddey fan club, it's like, dude, you got to see him play. You know, you can't just like look at highlights and the numbers and that. So maybe that's the case. You have to watch him within the context of a game. But all I know is my team was next on the clock, and I'd have been pissed if they took him at 7. So thank you, Sam Presti, for taking that risk, because I didn't want the Warriors to. And so that left the Warriors taking Jonathan Kuminga at 7. I did a full scouting report on him on my Patreon, along with Moody, Barnes, Mitchell, Bouknight. I really do pride myself on being good at talent evaluation. Now, we'll all have our misses, right? Maybe Giddey will be one for me. But the reason I'm comfortable having such strong takes on these things is because I know ultimately my track record is going to have way more hits than misses. So for Kuminga, I love that we don't have to worry about him being soft. Like, you look at so many of these kids and immediately you're like, yo, are they going to hold up? Like, are they going to, you know what I mean? Like whether it's the body, the mentality, or both. It's a concern with a lot of these kids for me. Kuminga, not so much though, right? I think the question is the shot and the work ethic, at least for me, which, to be fair, can be scary as well, right? But let me ask you this. Would you be completely shocked if the report out of the first week of training camp was Kuminga has been bullying Andrew Wiggins in practice? No, but for real, because like the kid seems like a natural bully on the court. And then with that body, I mean, you just can't teach that. You can't teach that, as cliche as that sounds. But like when you're an elite physical specimen like that, and you have a natural bully mentality, I like it. And I also think that Kerr, having had to deal with Wiseman last year, will help him not make the same mistakes with Kuminga. Keep it simple and have some patience. And I know that most people think that he isn't ready to contribute right away. Listen, don't underestimate Steph's gravity, man. And I know I'm preaching to the choir when I say that, but it's the type of player, right? Kuminga is the perfect type of player to really eat off that gravity. And you saw it with Oubre. About halfway through the season last year, he started to figure it out. And he was like, oh, if I cut, that's 8 or 10 points a game for me. And so, you know, Kuminga, I think he could contribute sooner than you may think, given Steph's gravity and how quick, you know, he can pick things up. Because one of the things that I mentioned in my scouting report is he doesn't look like he's been coached at all. Like, this is just a raw canvas here. So, you know, you could look at that as a bad thing, or you could look at that as a good thing, depending on how quickly he can learn, because it goes without saying why everybody's attracted to elite athletes. But one of the other advantages when you're dealing with an elite athlete is how quickly they can pick things up. Now, some of that's the mind, right? You got to have the IQ for it. But some of the stuff is like an elite athlete, you have to show them at once, and physically they can do it. Closeouts, you know, cutting, just some of the physical stuff. I also really like that the newly acquired Kenny Atkinson reportedly was the dude running him through drills in their workout. His stamp of approval means something. Look at his track record. So I like that as well. Number 8, the Orlando Magic, with their second lottery pick, take Franz Wagner, who is very similar to Jonathan Isaac, isn't he? Very similar. But I like the pick. I think he fits with all those score first guards that they have now, right? I think the question for him is, can he fill out and play the 5? Can he play the center position? The rumor is he's grown to 6'11", right? And if he can play the center position, I think it's going to unlock him offensively. It's going to give him a lot of advantages offensively because he's got some perimeter skills. He's pretty fleet of foot, but I don't know about his strength, because when you watch him play, he lacks explosiveness. And explosiveness kind of translates to strength. So I don't know if he can be a 5, right? But he's a modern defensive big. He can guard the pick and roll. Mentality-wise, you saw how quick his confidence betrayed him in the tournament, right? He's the talent is there. I'm not sure the mindset is yet. He might have kind of a role player mindset despite having more talent than that. At number 9, the Sacramento Kings, for the second year in a row, got the steal of the draft. Davion Mitchell. That was my guy. That was my guy. Look, and I ain't mad at Kuminga at all. I understand the value of the pick, the potential and all that, but Davion was the guy that I feel like was going to be, I think he had to go top 10, and you see him barely nudging here at number 9. And frankly, I'm pissed because now the Warriors are going to have to deal with this dude at least 4 times a year. And I just think people were overthinking the numbers on him. He's 6 foot, he's 22. But what did you see when he played? He was a nightmare for teams out there. I think with his strength and his IQ, he's going to be more switchable than you think. And as far as the shooting numbers go, look, he's a rhythm shooter. If you look, the more he shot, the better he shot. And so I think the one concern I'd have in Sacramento is sharing the backcourt with all those guys. If he can't find a rhythm, that shooting percentage is not going to be where you want it to be. But I think the writing on the wall is Buddy Hield's going to be out of there, and that will carve out a role for him. So, yeah, man, credit to the Kings 2 years in a row now for just not overthinking it, not getting seduced by potential, and just taking the best player on the board. Number 10, it was the Pelicans on the board, but the Grizzlies had traded for this pick, and they took a kid that they probably would have been able to take with their initial pick at 17 in Ziaire Williams. And for him, I think it's going to be all about his body. How much stronger can he get? Can he stay healthy? I get the upside. I see the frameworks of what he could be. He's just a ways away. And then you saw Memphis move up. You thought it would be for something more immediate. I don't see the value of the pick right there. That's what it becomes, right? It becomes about value. Again, I'm killing OKC for the Giddey pick. I'm not saying Giddey's going to be some washed out player. I just, at number 6, like it becomes value. Not as much as the NFL, but it's still about value. And so you look at Memphis, and I'm just not so sure what they're doing, man. Like Adams and Bledsoe for Valanciunas? That's an awful trade, man. Look, I'm going to shoot them bail. I want to see what else they do here because given their track record, like they've handled shit well. They've built a nice young core. So I want to see what they end up with here ultimately, because right now they looking funny in the light right now with the Ziaire pick and then that trade. I don't know, man. Pray for Ja. Number 11, the Charlotte Hornets take James Bouknight, who I guess was the slider in all this, right? Remember, everybody had him pegged at around 6 or 7, OKC, the Warriors, and he's another one of my scouting reports. One of my concerns was the way he moves, his gait, his frame, his balance, and him sliding this far leads me to believe that teams felt the same way. They didn't like the way he moved. They maybe ran him through the trainers and the doctors and right? Because look, if he can stay healthy, he's an instant bucket. He's an instant bucket, right? He given the opportunity and health, and most likely he will be the Malik Monk replacement. I don't think Jordan is going to pay Monk. That'd be a nice pickup for Detroit, Malik Monk. But I thought, honestly, Charlotte should have went more defensively here, right? Charlotte's problem is defense. They've got plenty of firepower. I thought they could have went Trey Murphy or Duarte. And then number 12 here for the Spurs, they take Joshua Primo. I'm not going to front. I don't even know who the fuck this kid is. I don't even know who he is. And I'll tell you what, the fact that this pick was so cutty, it actually spooks me. It does, because what do they know that we don't? Like the fact that they reached this far, he's probably going to be super nice in a few years. I'm going to reserve judgment on that pick because, again, it's too fishy. It's too funny style there. Number 13, the Indiana Pacers take a very Pacer-like player in Chris Duarte, the old man from Oregon. Safe pick. And I think what it is it's insurance for Malcolm Brogdon. I know he's been rumored to be on the trade block a little bit, but everything I keep hearing is that Brogdon, his body is breaking down. It's back, it's hip, it's stuff that's alarming. And so I just don't know how much longer he's going to be a healthy player. Duarte kind of fits that mold of a strong power guard who can, kind of a 5-tooler. He doesn't do anything great. He does everything average. Obviously, he's old enough and ready, mature enough to contribute right now. So, decent pick. I thought, he was linked to the Warriors next. But here's what happened. Look, the Ziaire pick from Memphis and the Primo pick from the Spurs left Moses Moody on the board for the Warriors at 14. 6'6", 7-foot wingspan. The jumper is pure. Look, man, I just hope D. Lee leased that car for his mama. Nah, man, but I think all of Dub Nation has kind of nodded their head in agreement here after these picks that they did exactly what they hoped to do so outside of trading for a star. If they were going to keep the picks, they got an upside pick in Kuminga and they got a safe pick in Moody. Again, I'd love for y'all to go head over to my Patreon, check my breakdowns of that. I'm going to have full coverage of the Summer League, every Warrior game, and I'll probably take a look at like Cade and Jalen in the top picks, and that will be all through here in August. And then, the season will be right back upon us. I know some of you have been reaching out about the YouTube channel and all that. I will be back on there next season. I don't want to spread myself too thin. The YouTube channel, the content will be up and popping for next season. But until then, this offseason, you can find all my coverage on Patreon, along with the Hezi episode every Friday. Brought to you by basketballgods.net. I'm out, Joe.